for a while. I'm not here to comparing. I'm not comparing AWS and Azure, but my observations, like I've been on this. I'm monitoring around about some 50 or 60 subscriptions around every day. I work on that. So see, couple of things which I identified. Basically, what you asked is elasticity. That means one term here there is security. So security is the main goal here. Like all end ups like how my data is protected. That's what your question, if I understood correctly. Always we can sync up with we have the ability to sync up with the on-premises Active Directory with the Azure Active Directory. That is the first step where we are syncing. The second thing is like we have our own express routes and everything where a dedicated network has been created for you. But that doesn't mean like it is 100% protectable. But again, we have different audit rules, different NSGs or different type of things where we can lay out, and we have that gateways to keep track of, to keep check of any vulnerability security issues. So yeah, that's what my observation. And in fact, if as you said, as there is other things like this security center in the OMS, that is one thing where my client is heavily investing on that. OMS is really one of the major thing which might take place in the near future. That is one thing which the customers are heavily investing, including my client who is using. So yeah,
so this is Bala, right? Bala,
right.
Yeah, Bala, that's a good point. And that's what I wanted to show. But before that, my screen crashed. So in OMS, Uday, you have different. Microsoft has something called Solution Gallery. Within that Solution Gallery, they have different pillars. So you have Insight and Analytics, which will do analytics, and then you have Security and Compliance. That's where you get your information about much deeper information than Azure Securities. Most of the information also it gets from Security Center. Same information collects, but it gives you much more than Azure Security Center. It gives you advanced threat analytics. It gives you heuristic analysis, and you can perform all kind of correlation between log on and you can really it can give you much deeper insight into user activity and who has access and what all those things. So this is really good thing about Microsoft, and it's a part of OMS. So you can subscribe to it, and this is software as a service offering. Which you can utilize from Microsoft.
Yeah, just to continue, add on to that, Neeraj, hope I can do that.
Sure.
Apart from that security, we should also concern about the security and the backup also. How the backup, and OMS provides and both security and backup as well. So if you see that, you should see one of the
protection.
You should see somewhere the backup. Yeah. So yes. So yeah. See, this is the best which is coming. So to answer to your question, these are all like this is the only one in the lot of things. But yeah, these are all resources. If you go in depth, if we go in depth and then try to understand all these components, I think that answers your question, I guess.
Thanks, Bala. But what I'm exactly looking for is I'm looking for a different cloud platforms. Working for different Yeah, it's audible.
Yeah, go ahead, Oza. I can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm looking for different platforms, different cloud providers, right? So some customers come to us to do evaluation of the products, then we have to suggest which platform is suitable for them. So if I'm going to suggest with Microsoft Azure, there is some weightage should be there, because I can't force the customers who is using the open source product, heavily using the open source product. I can ask them to move on to Azure platform. Apart from the security, apart from the compliances, but the basis, the Hyper-V, it's tightly integrated with Microsoft components rather than any of the kernel mode OS platforms, CentOS, Linux, or Sans, everything. There's completely different platform. In such cases, it's vice versa. The same thing that someone is some other customers, it's looking for AWS, but they are heavily using the Office 365, Exchange, and all the past models. So we are going to suggest to them, no, it's tightly integrated, so we can't break it. So with AWS, we can give this, but it's not extensible. It's not a better way to get all the feasibilities of Microsoft products to put into the AWS. But AWS can promise it, what exactly the business needs, but it can't deliver it. It can be maybe some downside. So what I'm looking for is the open source, how if move the customer, open source customers to Azure platform, how it will be very integrity and credibility in Azure platform. So do you have any experience on such kind of customers who's heavily using in different vertical or open source product or Microsoft or VMware, whatever it is? So did you have any negotiated well with the customers? So that's my point here. Analytics, compliance, automations, everything is perfectly fine. That's good.
Mhm.
So some customers ask me about, so I'm using heavily, I want to move AWS. They can, but it's tight. If you go and do the deep dive, definitely.
Yeah, it's a double sword, right? So that you said if you have Microsoft workload, it makes sense to move into Azure. But if you have, let's say, a lot of open source and you're using, third party, and so you'll have to look into whether the OMS or any kind of monitoring tool which Microsoft offers you today, does that have agent? Is it agentless or agentful? If it is agentful, does Microsoft offer you that gamut of agent to monitor those resources, open source resources, right? Ubuntu, Linux, SUSE. I know that Microsoft supports all this, but there may be some limitations. So wherein you can go and look at those the monitoring component we talked about, and look at this. For example, if you have to deploy the OMS agent, so OMS deploys an agent to collect this information. And if you look at it currently, the solution or the agent that is available is for the Windows and Linux servers. Now, if you have any other, like Mac and all those, Ubuntu and anything other than that, you have to also look at that whether these agents can be deployed to those open source platform that you're talking about, right? If not, are there third-party integration provider ISVs which can do it? So honestly speaking, I haven't done it because the place that where I work, it's purely Microsoft space, and we have 80% Microsoft workload. Hence, I haven't faced that challenge. But maybe somebody in audience, probably.
Yeah, let me answer that. Maybe it helps. To say like in a single word that to answer to his question. We can't say like it's difficult to say yes we can do that, or it's difficult and we cannot neither say no we can't do that. That is not the, we can't do that both. But the only thing we can achieve that is like so it is basically we want to give a solution. Hey, what is the advantages of moving to Azure or moving from AWS? The only thing is like what exactly the customer is looking for, and then we need to dig a little more, and then we need to identify. That is the
I mean,
only
one
thing. We
of
have a
one of
lot of
the
things.
yeah, that's good. One of the
Let me there is another thing like apart from security and backup or something which we already discussed, there is another thing like we need to know like integration, like all the code or everything. So we have the continuous integration and continuous deployment. Okay, like the Chef and Puppet and whatever those services. So yeah, we can do that here or not. That is one analyzation we should do. And then the main thing is like how your Azure servers are good or not, your pass roles are good or not. Is there? So is there any logging mechanism? Is there? There are a couple of tools mentioned by Neeraj. Apart from that, I think one of the best tool is like Splunk, where you can log everything, and we have forwarders we can install in the Azure server.
Bala, hello.
Yeah,
Hi, guys.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, Bala. It was very exciting to see the comparisons that you're trying to make, based on the requirement of customer. This is Amit, just to introduce myself.
Hey, Amit.
So, hi everyone. So recently I had the opportunity to attend the AWS Innovate conference. I'm not sure how many, it was a global conference.
I think
So,
Uday was there. Uday, you joined, right? the AWS conference?
I joined an AWS summit. So what
Summit, okay.
conference is it?
Yeah,
It's
it
a
just
Innovate
happened,
conference?
I think, 2 days back. Innovate conference for more
It's a
around like
innovative
3
conference.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, innovative conference. So what I realized there, because the question that is raised and that's being discussed right now, I was very curious about, the same question. Why should I move away from AWS when people are, making so much of hue and cry and so much of, applauding AWS to such an extent? So what I understood is it's almost like what we see in Azure, but with a different terminology. Because I could just easily pick up everything when they talked about the elastic model, the scale up, scale out. Everything was there with a different terminology.
Correct.
So what I understood is that it becomes a very thin line. There's a very thin line
Agree.
when you have to actually select a cloud provider. However, what I see with Azure being a little, I won't say an edge over, but as a presentation, as a sake of presentation, I would see Azure being closer to Windows, and people who are being very much familiar working on the Windows platform or Microsoft platforms or Microsoft technologies, they might get a little bit towards Azure when we explain the both. But what I have also observed the same time, when the both clouds are not so much different in the way they function, from the core, is that, people are not so much aware. I've been giving some Azure presentations in some of my clients like Mercedes-Benz and all. So I got to know that they're not aware. So there's just a matter of awareness. And I'm very much sure it will become even more difficult for people to decide for the cloud provider here. Because I see everybody is coming with security options, as you guys were discussing here. Everybody is coming with hybrid options. Everybody is coming with the identity management also, one of the options. Earlier I thought probably it's just the Azure, which has a very strong identity management, but actually I got to know that no. It's not just restricted to that. So what I have understood is that more or less they are same and similar, and becomes a very difficult decision, especially if you're not a Microsoft guy. It's just some other company, and you have to sell a solution to the customer. It becomes a very thin line. To be really honest, if you're really honest in giving the option to the customer, so that's what I think. Even if the requirement is there, at times it may become difficult. So anybody can shed some light if by any chance if such a situation is happening. What will be the best way to approach this? Because there is a very thin line, as I just explained. So how do we decide in that scenario?
So I mean,
Hi,
Right.
it's Nilesh here. Yeah. So basically, I have faced such situation, and also normally that whenever the client will be asking that what they are looking for, so ideally that even it happens same with me also, that I am completely from the Azure background, but I got a chance to attend the AWS training, 5 days training. So whatever Amit told, that same thing, it was explained each and everything. We have a parallel services and component available over there. So normally what we do it over there, we see that what is the component they are looking. I can give the best example, like what, yeah, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Piyush.
Yeah,
Complete your
so
thought.
we can see like one of the client is using the Oracle Rack. So Oracle Rack is not supported in Azure. In AWS, it was in previous long back story I'm telling you. And so these are the challenges which we have. So we see like this, and then only we take a call and all. So these are not only that,
Yeah,
if you see that
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, we can't. There is
1
no
minute, yeah,
no
sure.
one word answer for that. That's what
But
I
one thing
want
is
to say.
definitely we have an edge over there. If you are having an application built on the Microsoft stack, then definitely
correct.
we will try to go ahead with Azure, because it really gives a, it really is going to help us, because if you are going to see the way we are,
Yeah,
because I'm from the application background, it
those
really
are
helps us. Within
yeah,
no time
those
we
are
can go ahead and do that.
yeah, those are the really key points. So like, some of the limitations Azure today has. So if you have LAMP stack, right? So you can deploy. So today Azure Web App has Windows Web App, so based on Windows IIS. But if you're looking for Linux, it is still in preview. Microsoft is adding support for Linux. It's not that they're not, and they're adopting it very fast. But if you already have using Linux stack on your and PHP and all those, which probably you can also use in Azure, but AWS will be much closer. If you have Linux workload, you are open source, probably I would say AWS. But having said that, can Azure do it? Yes, it can do it. And also in terms of AWS, what I've seen between Azure and AWS is Azure has much better PaaS offering, especially around Microsoft, than AWS. AWS PaaS is totally built from their IaaS, and if you talk about infrastructure service, nobody can beat AWS today, honestly speaking. Their IS is way ahead. Okay.
I would say I have heard something on similar lines that they're more IS centric than PaaS centric.
Correct.
Yeah, and I, to be really honest, I was not never a developer guy, but when I was going through the PaaS model, it just took my eyes in such a way that I spent almost like months studying just the PaaS model and how you can just do a lot of permutations and combinations with the PaaS model. And probably there were a lot of questions raised about how to migrate to Azure, and every time when I came across such people, I would rather give them a PaaS option rather than going for an IS option, because this is what people come up with. I'm sure you guys will to some extent agree with me that they have VMs in their own environment. What the big deal that it comes with when we talk about Azure VMs, though they are running on latest machines, latest processors, but still they feel that we have VMs. Why would they go? Yeah, somebody's saying. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's good. So Amit, this was Amit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Amit, that's a very good point. So I talked about this, and I have been keep repeating it, and I keep telling people, AWS is very good infrastructure service, and I will agree. Even Microsoft is still catching up. I'm not saying that they are not doing their job; they're doing, and they're trying to catch up. But AWS IS is way ahead because it's based on OpenStack, and they use a lot of sources from there, and it's very optimized, heavily optimized. But that's where the challenge is. What happens is when you have a strength, you try to build all your product around that strength, right? So your strength is IS. So all what I see, it personally, I may be wrong because I have expertise in AWS, but what I've seen is all their PaaS almost, is centered around their IS. So for example, if you go with RDS, right, relational database service, in the background, they will spin up 2 VM for you, and then they will charge you for compute, and they'll charge you for your SQL database size, right? That's how they provide you SQL, as opposed to Azure SQL, which is, truly a PaaS solution where they don't spin up an instance for you.
Correct.
They have a shared farm of 1,000 servers, and out of that you get an elastic database transaction unit or DTU.
Absolutely.
Right, those kind of features you truly get in PaaS. And for me, is like the first revolution, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 revolution of cloud was that move from data center to cloud. So as is lift and shift. So that phase is probably it's almost over. Now the second phase is where people want to further optimize. They don't want to manage infrastructure service. They don't want to maintain their IT staff. They don't want to own those operations.
And what you have just said, I would just say that has come up to a point where we say we just refactor the code, reduce the snippets in the code to remove them for security options, remove them for other options, and just refactor it for just the purity of the applications. Like I'm sure. I mean, if you can just throw some light, a small one. I know it's already extended, but at a small point, just the sake of comparison, that for the sake of, like, we have deployment slots, right? We have the options. I mean, in Azure, the options are there for just a small refactoring, and you just do key rollovers for the Azure storages. You do small changes in the Azure orientation, how you deploy an app, and that reduces a lot of load in terms of refactoring the code, or rather I would say it reduces the code to just develop the application and not worry about the security. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, as I said, the phase 1 was where people moved from data center to IS, and they saved money because now they don't have to manage the data center. The second phase is where people want to further optimize. They don't want to manage their infrastructure service. They don't need patching infrastructure. They don't need monitoring infrastructure. They don't need antivirus and all those. So they will move on to PaaS, and that's the phase 2. And that's where I see strong presence for Azure, because Azure has very good portfolio platform as a service, and that's truly PaaS solutions, not built out of IS. And then finally, what I say is when industry will mature and we will have enough SaaS offering where people don't have to build anything. So in that case, even we don't have to hire any developers to develop this application.
Absolutely.
So there are SaaS vendors. I can go and just buy it and pay per use model. So right now, in my opinion, we are in phase 2, and I'm seeing that growing, and that's where the actually is going to explode. So anybody who can innovate in PaaS space, be it Azure or be it AWS, they will be leader. So if AWS can really,
Absolutely.
innovate in PaaS and, truly offer a PaaS solution, not a PaaS in name of, PaaS build out of IaaS, as long as they can truly offer innovative PaaS solution, they will lead the market. If not, they will fall behind.
Right, but
Needed
then
Shreyas here.
they still bring in the stack thing and still try to push people a little bit on the backward side, 3 steps back, going back to the data center, their own data center, where eventually they would have to manage the infrastructure resources to some extent, because it is just kind of hosted in their own environment. So yeah, I mean, obviously it's there, and I mean, I wasn't expecting. I mean, I've been working on Stack also, but I was not expecting
Yeah,
that
so see,
they will go with such a big.
what Microsoft has done and identified. In fact, you also talk to anybody. The next is hybrid, right? It is like, we cannot host everything into cloud for certain
Cloud.
security and privacy reason.
Right.
But this will cover most use cases. Why
Mm-hmm.
80% of workload can, follow this pattern, but rest 20% or 15%, which are really sensitive, regulatory requirement, government
Correct.
requirement, red box countries, data restricted countries, and all those reasons,
Mm-hmm.
for that probably will have to maintain the small footprint, not the big
Mm.
footprint. So, it's 80% can be in your public cloud. The small footprint, which is 20%, 15% for that, that market, Microsoft has released Azure Stack, and in there also they're offering the same solution, same look and feel, same PaaS offering, almost same PaaS offering.
Correct. Absolutely correct.
So that's why,
Yep.
they came in hybrid space, because they realized the
I,
enterprise customers, right?
I think
Microsoft.
they're yeah, they're also adding some lease of life to the hardware vendors. Otherwise, people would fly away from their hardware, existing hardware, and go to cloud. And at least they've teamed up with Dell and all these guys. At least to some extent, they have given some lease of life, because still see some hardware networking guys in my company. I don't know. I don't see their space when we have conferences or meetings. They don't actually find their places there, because there's nothing much to discuss when they are in the meetings. It's primarily the public solution, public cloud solutions, or the virtualized solutions that we always talk about. So yeah, obviously you are absolutely right, saying that they are doing the hybrid stuff. But I also think they are just giving a lease of life to some hardware vendors with the same thing.
Right. Guys, this is a really fantastic discussion. So I have to add 2 points to close this call before. The first point, the interesting and challenging thing is the customers looking for AWS platform because of they want to reduce the cost, or else they want to move from AWS to Azure to reduce the cost. But practically the customer environment, it supports Azure, but the customers wants to move to AWS. In such cases, we are bit panic. Then I have to work with the AWS to go and grab the most information and discussion. Then AWS people, the chief architects I met a couple of weeks ago, so he is also a bit panic about Microsoft. Then last week Monday, I met some Microsoft guys. They are a bit panic about AWS. So here, the panic in between the big giants that makes us to make me uncomfortable to deliver what exactly the customer needs. For instance, in my environments, one of the customers looking for Docker, right? So we are working on the Azure platform. So we suggested to, okay, we are go with this Docker Swarm. He said, okay, that's fine. You can go with that. So the layer kernel it's very light. So we can't go with the production environment with serverless to more than multiple instances to need to run serverless design and implementations in Azure Stack. Sorry, in Azure platform. So we have worked for a couple of weeks, then we identified the cost before we delivering to the customers. Then we've run the same environment in AWS. So both are very similar, but the interesting part is the Kubernetes. We tested with the Kubernetes. The performance immense. It's really good. The customers came back. We suggested for Docker Swarm is the best option. If in case we will go for AWS. The customers work with their R&D team. They came back. Kubernetes is really good for my environment. So what exactly happened here is we are good provider here. We lack some of the phase here. We think about, okay, Azure, we think about AWS platform, but customers did more than what we did. So finally they decided a call with Kubernetes. So now we are working with Kubernetes. So how can we
So
integrate the
Kubernetes,
code? How can we
yes,
do?
Kubernetes is also supported in Azure. I think recently they added the support for
Yeah, yeah, it's recently. That's we are this next week. It should be it's in the same pipeline. So the thing is, the Jains also a bit panic about what exactly they want to do, and then we also depends on the Jains. So we have to be read, and give the information to the customers. They do the implementation. So efforts and everything, it's lacking. So here, this is the big gap I found a couple of weeks, which I have put effort for 2 to 3 weeks in Docker and Kubernetes and serverless and so on in AWS part. So you guys come across this kind of interesting situations. I would say challenging. It's really challenging for me to take a decision because my enterprise architect struggle, and then Microsoft people bit worried about it. It will be support or not. The production multiple core serverless infrastructure can support in Microsoft Docker, or else this guy's
Yes,
AWS Docker. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, first question, I think I'm sure people will say, how do they assess these things? Because any moment or any ways, whenever somebody is thinking of even going or thinking about to go to cloud, first phase is the assessment phase, which has to be really exhaustive. So how do they assess? What are the requirements that they assess on? And what are the things that they can assess and eventually think about what they can leave behind and what they can take it up to the cloud? Because what I believe is, I mean, as I said earlier also, it's very, very thin line between the two, AWS and Azure. But at the same time, I say, whether either of the clouds, the first and foremost important thing here would be to assess what is the requirement, and after the requirement, how to actually, if you can't move everything there, what you can leave behind and what you can take it up, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Ahmed, that's right, but already the customers using the Azure platform, right? So in such cases, the customers predominantly, we are giving a solution for Docker Swarm, right? So we're suggesting in Docker Swarm the performance and everything. We have to test it in our environment. We have engineering teams, so we have to test all the protocol before we are delivering to the customers, right? So at the same test we did in the AWS. So it's far better AWS. Then the customers came back, no, these both are, it's not comfortable in our environments. In serverless codes, we are planning for our Kubernetes. Again, see, we spent nearly 4 weeks to deliver this. Again, that started big concern in between. See, everything is cost here, right? So the cost involved, effort involved, resources, and everything has been involved. So again, we have to start working on the Kubernetes now. So and Microsoft also not very sure. Okay, we have take it up. Come, let's go. We will work it out. Then these guys, AWS, also it's a bit worrying because it's running in Azure.
See, first of all, Kubernetes is neither Microsoft technology nor AWS technology. It's Google technology.
That's right. But they tested it, right? They tested it. They came back with this point.
Yes. Just saying.
Yeah.
And if you look at Docker, Docker has a partnership with Microsoft. That's why you have a very tight integration. Kubernetes is a Google product, and Google doesn't have partnership with any of these two. So that's
any of these, right.
And even though, sir, just add one more point, like while choosing the Azure or AWS, I think we should just understand the compatibility of the hardware or the software, and then only just we can move forward. Because even though I have attended the AWS seminar, the training for 5 days, and understand what Amit has made the point, which is very good. This is a thin liner, and they are slowly, like Microsoft is moving very fast towards the technologies and all, and AWS is already established. So people already, they know, okay, they are trusted, and the Microsoft is just moving fast, slowly, and that is moving out. So there is always a compatibility issue between AWS and Azure. because probably most of the enterprise they use Windows platform, not AWS. Most of the even though for now they are using Linux and OpenStack for the security reason, and they wanted to move it to RDS server into AWS, or probably they just move it out for the SQL guys. They just move it out for Azure or the marketplace which they choose and work upon. So that concern will be always there. So while going through it, the first thing we just understand the compatibility, what we are moving, and what the product
So
we
I
need
think
to.
Lalit, you're right saying that compatibility. I think that should be a part of the assessment option only, which not only means just running a tool on the environment to understand it, but actually understand it literally, the literal understanding of the compatibility with the Azure product. I remember, just quickly, I'll share one small thing here. I remember being a part of an enterprise modernization team in Microsoft, where we were moving apps pretty heavily to the latest platform, be it 2016 or be it Azure. So there we're doing extensive integration, extensive assessments of the tools, and we realized that a lot of things that could not be moved, and we were using app zeros there. So, I mean, that tells you that you will definitely have a challenge, you will definitely have an option, but it's not necessarily that you have to say that we can't move. Rather, I would say you have to take a decision on what you can leave behind. A logical decision. Probably not everything. I know today everybody believes that not everything can be moved to cloud. So this expectations have to be set right in the advance, right in the first place, because if we say this is all magic and everything or anything can be moved, that's really, what Uday has, explained, a panic comes because not everything can be moved. And the expectation has to be set right in the first place to the people that, see, there are certain limitations, you have to comply by that, and there would be a situation where you might not be able to move everything to the cloud.
Correct. And that's where, the hybrid comes into the picture, right? So, the workload which cannot be moved into the cloud,
Absolutely.
you keep it on-prem and, maintain that dependency that you want to. So that's where, Microsoft is playing very nicely in that space, and that's where Azure Stack is going to, especially in the enterprise segment. See, if you look at AWS profile, they have a lot of small customers and MSBs, but, larger customers, all these enterprise customers are still with Microsoft because they're running Microsoft workloads. And those enterprise customers will have a small footprint, not big footprint, but they will have small footprint maintaining on-prem. And with Azure Stack, they will have the same look and feel, same technology, and seamless movement. And that's why I'm seeing, this enterprise customers who are on ESXi host today. A lot of customers are using VMware for their private cloud, or some of them are using Hyper-V. They will, eventually move to Azure Stack if they already adopted Azure in public cloud, for sure. I mean, that's what my guess is.
Yeah, I just came across few of the clients that I was doing TP1 POCs of Azure Stack with them. They wanted an integration with OpenStack. They wanted an integration to see how the PaaS will work on this platform. It was exactly the same like an ARM, model of Azure Public Cloud, the Azure Stack. And it was a very interesting POC because you get to know under the hood about the Azure Public Cloud through Azure Stack, because whatever is there in Azure and the way it is run in Azure functionally is exact.
How?
Hello?
We lost Amit.
Yeah,
All right.
we lost him.
All right.
All right.
Fine, Neeraj. It's really interesting discussions which I want to share.
No,
It's a
thank you.
fantastic
Thanks a lot.
discussion, I would say.
Yeah, I think
But
was
but
a
I
hot
would say
topic
it's
which
a
you
very
brought.
useful discussion.
No, I'm really sorry. I think we are 30 minutes over. So hopefully, we all have utilized our time properly.
Yeah, so one
Yeah.
more thing I would like to
Yeah,
add
that's true.
here. Last 2 weeks before we implemented Azure Stack TP3, we tested with all the components, most of the components in an on-premises hybrid cloud. So we are in the production phase. Probably we can release on August end, I think so. So if it works, then it's good to go.
So
So what else?
which hardware platform you have chosen? The Dell, Lenovo, HP, Cisco?
So we have a big challenge in this choosing the hardware initially. We choose the HP hardware with G9, some of the blades, but we have some of the compatibility issue. Then we moved to Lenovo. Lenovo, we used a converged network for nodes. We tested all the components and everything, so this looks good. So we have implemented some of the VMs and traffic managers and load balancing, everything. The same thing we are implementing in Sydney as well. So we are going to integrate with Express route in Sydney and New Zealand and Azure Sydney as well.
Okay.
So lots of things is going on. So once it's done, then we can move with this DevOps.
Awesome. All right. I think
Seriously, it's not awesome. Seriously, it's not awesome. It's taking more pains.
I'm just saying from the technology perspective, you have Azure Stack, which is like Azure in your own data center, so which is good, right? So we all work on public cloud Azure, but we don't know what's under the hood, and that's what Amit was saying, right? So with Azure Stack now, you will have grip, or what's happening, what's the Azure Service Fabric, and that Service Fabric is locally running on your stack, on your server. Right. Okay, I think, guys, we are 35 minutes over past our allocated time, and it was really nice discussion, I was listening.
Amazing discussion, definitely.
And it was really helpful, man. So,
Neeraj, this was my first meeting that I've attended, or the first call that you scheduled I've attended. Last time I tried, but somehow something happened with my Skype for Business, couldn't connect to it. But I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, an immense thank you to you. For getting this platform up for each one of us to have a discussion like this and share the knowledge, the way it's being done in the Telegram app. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I was just trying to find it out for so many months now. Now finally this has happened. And thank you to Neeraj.
Thank you, Amit. And it does help, with this kind of positive feedback. It also help motivate me, not only me, but also, a lot of other active members like Lalit is very active, and Shakti, and there are other people also very actively contributing in Telegram. And, I always look forward to, people coming up and helping people, because the more you share, the more you learn. It's period. It's nothing that if I share, somebody else will come and replace me. No, not at all. In fact,
absolutely
by the time they will learn from you, you will learn more from their questions, and you will always be ahead of the pack. So,
it definitely happens this way. Absolutely right.
Neeraj, this is Pawan. Yeah, thank you so much for your, information. I recently joined this group, I think last week, and after that, definitely very impressive. Even though I check your YouTube blogs as well, where you uploaded many videos. Today, I, go through with 3 network videos, and seriously very impressive. And thank you so much for sharing information and knowledge on the Azure. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. Thank you, guys. And
I want to share the same, like what Amit and Uday told. Yeah, I just joined 2 days back, but yeah, it's really a helpful discussion, and there are very nice takeaway points actually. I hope we'll continue. Do you have any plans? I see most of the videos are on the infrastructure side. Do you have anything on the development side, like provisioning, Azure functions or something like that?
Right now, I don't have background in application, but if I'll have to collaborate with a couple of members in the group and see if we can.
If you want, Neeraj, I can contribute a bit in this, because I'm a little bit passionate about the platform model and the app model. I am not a developer, absolutely not from a developer background also, but the way it has influenced me, and I just get to get more good along with the PaaS stuff and the custom application stuff. So I would really like to contribute. I'm sure I would do something, but not from the developer's perspective, but from the Azure perspective, whatever you wish to. So you can plan something, and probably I'll try and contribute from my side also.
Oh, that would be great. So, Amit, I will reach out to you, and Bala also, I will sync up with you and see, if we can come up with an agenda, especially around, DevOps and the application side, and
sure,
we can cover that.
Sure.
We will, surely cover Azure functions and other, the DevOps piece. And automation is also one of the things that I'm targeting. So I'm good in automation. I do a lot of scripting.
Amazing.
So,
Ah,
so at least
there's another
DevOps sec-
area.
yeah. So
So
at
now
least,
we can ask someone the PowerShell workflows of any questions. Yeah, definitely.
yeah. So certainly, like, that's my forte. But going into and developing custom module for PowerShell, I cannot do it. But writing
No, that's
workflows and
far more. Yeah.
DSCs and PowerShell and
Neeraj, and I'm doing the same stuff in my organization right now as a cloud automation architect. So
okay.
I'm building scripts and modules. So as I said earlier also in my Telegram app, I'm kind of working on building something similar to Azure Studio. Not exactly, but a UI tool for Azure. So just for simplification. So I would definitely need your help in doing that. It's an open source project kind of a thing I wanted to do. So I will definitely have a great companion in you to do that stuff, if it's okay with you.
Yeah.
I think I'm also on the part of the Azure automation. See, up until now, our organization will provision the resources through some SMA workflows. So they are planning to migrate everything from SMA to the Azure automation. So that's where maybe down the line, another 3-4 months, maybe we are working. So I think this
Yeah,
session,
that's
Azure
good.
automation might
Yeah.
help. Right?
I mean, I was working on a project probably, maybe sometime if I get an opportunity where, we are talking about, architecture to production in less than an hour. So basically what we have envisioned and I have envisioned is that you have a portal where you have architecture blueprints, predefined, pre-cane architecture blueprints, and you have those as a option, as a service options that you have. You select one architectural blueprint, and it's already pre-approved by organization because the blueprint you will just create a replica of that. You select that, it shows you the visual of it or the picture of it, and then once you say I want to provision it, you click on provision, it goes to your manager approves it, and then the moment it gets approved, you have button to say deploy in Azure. It will go and deploy exactly the same blueprint what you have seen.
Yeah, that's how, it's little disconnected right now for us, but it's morely the same. Based on the environment, we already assigned what should be the profile size, like the VM size. Okay, if it is lower environments like DV development or something, we use standard A4 V2 sizes, or if it is the prod and the load environments, so we use higher VM sizes. So everything we define in that blueprint, and then we mention that when the package is getting deployed, the service config file will update the data. Sorry for that.
All right.
Yeah, I think Azure automation might be the one another thing which really helps.
Once I conclude the Azure networking, then I'll move on to Azure automation, and there other demands also. So probably we'll keep all this in focus. And I also have 1 hour, so which also restricts me in plus. But anyway, I'll try my level best, and if I can get more help from you guys, that would be really awesome. Like Amit and Bala, if you can, volunteer. Lalit has also volunteered, so maybe that would also help me to bring in more topics into our Azure talk, and probably we can cover.
Sure. Yeah, any help. I'm just 6 months or 7 months old in Azure, but if anything, yeah, definitely I'll glad to help. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, hi, this is Preyas here. I am from the application side, so definitely I'll be also working from the application side to support Azure Talk.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you guys.
Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Neeraj, again. And sorry to extend that call another 35 minutes.
No, it's okay. All right, it was all nice talking to you guys.
Same here. Neeraj. Thank you
thanks
so
to that with Neeraj bhai for bringing such a nice session. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Bringing the live.
Thank you, guys.
Questions over here.
Bye. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too, bye.